All right, I'll go first here. I'm going to start off in the very, very competitive Pac-12. What an impressive conference after we've dogged it for the last 3-4 years. It only stands to reason that since they're on their way out the door now, they're doing all this great stuff. But I want to go into the far upper Northwest, and I'm going to back Oregon State here, Emil, in their game against Utah. Utah coming off of a nice, tough win in the conference in Los Angeles, 14-7 over a UCLA team that we're still trying to figure out. We know they're good, but just how good. So good win for Utah. And maybe they might want to let their hair down a little bit. And they're heading to play an Oregon State team that's coming off of a disappointing loss. Now, that game last week, I almost picked Washington State because that's a tough ball game. You're going to play a Washington State team that not a lot of people are talking about, but they're another good team in the conference. And you had this Utah game coming up. Well, you messed around and lost the Washington State game, and Oregon State is a good football team. And there's just something about this line with Oregon State. What's Bovada saying?
3.5 at our sponsor, Bovada. 3.5 you're laying 3.5.
I'm laying 3.5. Oregon State coming off of a loss. Utah has his reputation and just won at UCLA. Why is it 3.5? It's because
that Oregon State game, their quarterback didn't play his best game. Washington State got up on them early by like 17. It ended up being a 3-point win for Washington State. Now, Washington State was a dog in that game, and their quarterback Ward really had him. He's been having an impressive season so far. I like this pick. Again, I think Utah is a tough, gritty team. I don't think they are what they've been the last couple of years. They're I mean, no, Cam Rising or not, I just don't think they're very dynamic offensively.
Yeah. And I totally get that. Oregon State's tough. They'll be motivated. They're tough at home. I like them 3.5-point favorites. Okay. Come all the way back to the East Coast now, going to the ACC. You loved Louisville last week, and they did what you needed them to do. They got an easy win over a Boston College team that took Florida State to the wire. I think Louisville might be a little disillusioned by that as they head out to take on an NC State team that struggled with a not-so-good Virginia team on a nationally televised game. Mind you, it's a Friday night, but still a nationally televised game, and people might get the wrong idea. So now you've got Louisville going into NC State, a tough place to play, as a favorite. Emil, and I don't like that for Louisville, especially with Notre Dame on deck next week. I think this is dangerous territory for Louisville, off of a blowout with a big game next week, playing a tough opponent on the road as a favorite. Seems like a prime.
And I think the odds makers are counting on a lot of the casual fans to look at that NC State Notre Dame score, and I think it was 45-24, something like that. That game changed on a missed field goal in the third quarter. It was a tight ball game. NC State was going to cut it to a 4-point lead. They missed a field goal. I believe it wasn't a long one either. And at that point, momentum shifted. Notre Dame seized control of the game. But NC State hung in there tough for 2.5.
They played them tough.
They're
a good football team. I like them as a dog at home. What's our point?
You're getting 3.5. So you're giving 3.5 on the first one. You're getting 3.5 with NC State.
All right. I was on Mr. Swinney's head, but the truth of the matter is Clemson showed me a lot there. I kind of came away from the game being a little more impressed with Clemson than Florida State. I thought Clemson made a stand there as to like, hey, we're not dead yet. We're not going to give you.
Well, I think it's based on expectations. I think Florida State coming off that early win against LSU this year, coming off a poorly played game against BC, I think we all thought they were going to go in there and, really impose their will and put, step on Clemson. And then, like you said, in the end, you kind of came away thinking, Clemson's not a bad team. They played a solid ball game.
Sure. I think this would have been a tough game for Clemson had they beat Florida State. Truth of the matter is they lost. This is their second loss already on the season. Emil, Clemson can't go 2-3 at the hands of Syracuse. They just can't. There'll be bedlam in that locker room, in that town. It'll be just too much. So here we are, week 5 in the college football season, and Clemson is faced with a must-win situation against a Syracuse team that's on the rise. But, Emil, they're in no way, shape, or form ready for a highly motivated Clemson team coming to town. I think Clemson gets right here. I don't know what's going to happen to them with the rest of their season. But off of this loss to Florida State, Syracuse is about to get the best of Clemson can bring to the table, and I just don't think Syracuse
got a good line here. Clemson's given 6.5, and if you remember, I believe last year down at Clemson, Syracuse played them at like a 27-21.
Yes,
my memory serves me.
So they'll be on high alert.
That's right, they're on high alert, and I think this is a bad spot for Syracuse. So I like your pick there. I think this is, this Clemson's kind of playing for their season. Their season can go one of two directions. And
they can't go 2-3, Emil. No way.
That's what I'm saying. You go 2-3, your season's off the rails.
Yeah, they're in big trouble. And so is Dabo, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, so Chad's giving you Oregon State -3.5. That's a Friday night game. NC State +3.5, and Clemson -6.5. I'll make mine